On August 15, 1947, the Indian subcontinent, home to millions of people and a rich tapestry of cultures, religions, and languages, was split into two nations, India and Pakistan. But this wasn't just the birth of two new countries. It was a painful separation, a moment of joy tainted by tragedy. The story of the Indian partition is one of hope, betrayal, and unimaginable suffering.
The roots of the partition go deep into India's colonial past. For over 2 centuries, India was under British rule. By the early 20th century, the call for independence was growing louder. One of the most prominent voices of that movement was Mahatma Gandhi, a man who believed in nonviolence and unity. He once famously said, "An eye for an eye only ends up making the whole world blind." His vision for India was clear: freedom, yes, but also unity.
But unity was easier said than done. India wasn't a homogeneous country. The subcontinent was a mosaic of religions, and the two largest, Hindus and Muslims, had lived together for centuries, but tensions were rising. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the leader of the Muslim League, began to advocate for a separate nation for Muslims, believing they wouldn't be adequately represented in a Hindu-majority India. Jinnah argued, "India is not a nation, nor a country. It is a subcontinent of nationalities." He feared Muslims would be politically marginalized in a united India. The two men had very different visions. Gandhi envisioned a unified India where Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, and others lived together. But Jinnah's dream was Pakistan, a land for Muslims. As tensions escalated, the British, sensing the growing unrest, began to consider leaving India.
World War II had weakened Britain, and by the mid-1940s, they were struggling to maintain control over their empire. They realized it was time to grant India its independence, but the question was, what kind of independence? Enter Lord Louis Mountbatten, the last British Viceroy of India. His job was to oversee a smooth transition of power. But as negotiations between the Congress Party, the Muslim League, and the British progressed, it became clear that a compromise wasn't going to happen. By 1947, the idea of a divided India was becoming a grim reality.
Mountbatten had little time. He decided to push for partition, a move that he hoped would prevent further violence between Hindus and Muslims. The boundaries of the two new nations, India and Pakistan, were hastily drawn by Sir Cyril Radcliffe, a British lawyer with no prior experience in Indian affairs. Radcliffe had 5 weeks to draw the borders, and the lines he drew would divide families, villages, and ancient communities that had coexisted for centuries. Then, on August 15, 1947, India gained its independence. Pakistan was born a day earlier, on August 14. But what followed was not the celebration of freedom that so many had hoped for. Instead, it was chaos.
An estimated 10 to 15 million people were displaced, making it one of the largest mass migrations in history. Hindus and Sikhs in Pakistan fled to India, while Muslims in India rushed to Pakistan. But this movement was far from peaceful. Violence erupted on both sides: massacres, looting, and horrific atrocities. Historians estimate that between 1 and 2 million people lost their lives. Trains carrying refugees became symbols of both hope and horror. Many arrived at their destination full of dead bodies. The violence wasn't just political. It was deeply personal, as people who had once lived as neighbors turned on each other. Gandhi was heartbroken. He had fought for an independent India, but not one that was torn apart by hate. In his final days, Gandhi worked tirelessly to bring peace to the divided nation. He even said, "Partition is bad, but whatever is past is past. We have only to look to the future now."
But the wounds of partition ran deep. In the decades that followed, India and Pakistan would remain entangled in conflict, most notably over the region of Kashmir. Today, more than 70 years after partition, the legacy of this event still shapes the politics and relationships of South Asia. The border between India and Pakistan remains one of the most militarized in the world, and the scars of 1947 continue to affect millions.
But beyond the political tensions, there is also hope. People on both sides of the border share a common history, culture, and even language. As generations grow further removed from the horrors of partition, there is potential for healing and understanding.
The story of the partition is a reminder of the pain that division can bring, but it also speaks to the resilience of the human spirit. In the words of Gandhi, the future depends on what we do in the present. And perhaps in the present, there is a chance for reconciliation, peace, and a shared future.
Thank you for watching this exploration of the history of the Indian partition. If you found this video insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more historical content.